Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. Today we are looking at the state of Iowa, the Hawkeye State. Now, if I can get my mouse to cooperate. Not what I wanted you to do, mouse. And it's being slow. Thank you. Now let's get down here and try this again. Because the mouse, I really need a new one. It's just, yeah, I could never play computer games if I wanted to. The mouse sucks balls. Where the fuck did it even go? Try this again. There we go. Damn, that takes fucking forever. Anyway, the Iowa Wikipedia page, Hawkeye State, like I've already said. Its motto, our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. And the state capital, Des Moines. So yeah. Now, with that, let's hop over to the government. Come on! Stupid freaking mouse! Down! Freaking stupid thing! Thank you, God Almighty! It's a pain in the ass when it wants to be. State bird, goldfinch. State tree, the oak tree. State quarter, education. Cause yeah, 2004 they did the whole set of state quarters, one for each state. And they showed the design of the state flag here. Anyway, with all that done, let's dig in here. Iowa, of course, when it was founded, they're like, we gotta have a constitution. So, because they try to do one that's similar to the federal one, not as necessarily a direct copy, but similar. There was the first constitution created but not ratified, basically not approved and set into law. So 1844 they wrote one, but it's like no. 1846 they get one, and they have it for a while, and then finally in 1857 they get their modern constitution, the one they have to this day. But yeah, that talks about the Constitution. There wasn't a whole lot on the Constitution page, but yeah. Anyway, really, where you at, mouse? Where the hell did you go? Now, we want to look at the executive branch. Your current governor for the state of Iowa is Kim Reynolds. Um, of course, Iowa is divided into an executive branch, legislative, and judicial branch, like all the other states we've seen thus far. But when it was first developed and became Iowa Territory, it had 4 governors. First was Henry Atkinson, who was appointed by President Martin Van Buren. Then Robert Lucas, who was appointed by Martin Van Buren. Then John Chambers, who was appointed by William Henry Harrison. And finally, James Clark, who was appointed by James K. Polk. It would become a state, and your first governor as a state elected by the people was Ansel Briggs, 1846. He served all of 1 term. Then you have a Stephen P. Hempstead. Then James W. Grimes. Ralph P. Lowe. Samuel J. Kirkwood. William M. Stone. Samuel Merrill. Cyrus C. Carpenter. Samuel J. Kirkwood. So yeah, he was in the 1860s and he came back in the mid 1870s. That's interesting. And Joshua G. Newbold. So yeah, look at the early governors of Iowa. With that being the case, let's look at the Iowa executive branch elected representatives. Governor, as we've already spoken, Kim Reynolds. Lieutenant Governor, Chris Cornelier. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Cornelier, maybe. Attorney General, Brenna Bird. Your Treasurer, Toby Smith. Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig. I could see Secretary of Agriculture being that important. A lot of states would have it as just a cabinet position, but with a state who so much of their commerce comes from farming. Yeah, Secretary of Agriculture I could see being major enough to be elected by the people. Secretary of State, Paul Pate. State Auditor, Rob Sand. So yeah, those are the executive branch members elected by the people. With that, let's look at the executive cabinet, but they call it the Executive Council of Iowa. So that's interesting. They don't call it the cabinet, they call it the Executive Council. Which is apparently the big names we mentioned. So your executive council is made up of members that are elected by the executive, by the people, to the executive branch. Well, then do we have an actual cabinet then? Because I asked for Iowa cabinet, and this is what it gave me. Interesting. Okay. Sure. Anyway, with that done, let's look at the Iowa General Assembly, the Iowa legislature. Again, like always, bicameral body, two chambers, one body. Senate, House of Representatives. Your Senate President is Amy Sinclair, and your House Speaker, Pat Grassley. So, it's one of these states that don't have the lieutenant governor taking part in the General Assembly. So, 150 total members, 50 senators, 100 representatives. 50 senators, your current makeup is 33 Republicans to 17 Democrats. 100 representatives, current makeup of 66 Republicans to 33 Democrats and one vacancy. The Senate consists of 4-year terms and the House of 2-year terms. So 4 years for one term to cycle through in the Senate, 2 in the House. Does it say anything about term limits? I wonder. Nothing mentioned. We mentioned Senate President Amy Sinclair. There's also President Pro Tem Brad Zahn, and partisan Senate leaders, Majority Leader Jack Whitmer, and Democratic Leader Pam Jochum. In the House, we already talked about Pat Grassley being your Speaker. Speaker pro tempore is John Wills. And Majority Leader Matt Winshitty. And Minority Leader Jennifer Confrist. The Republican Party held a 2/3 supermajority until August 25th special election. August 2025 special election, let's just say, not August 25th. But yeah. Anyway, with that, where did you go again, Mouse? Judiciary. Article 5 of the Constitution of Iowa defines the judiciary as comprising a Supreme Court district courts, and any inferior courts established by the General Assembly, which we just looked at. The Iowa Supreme Court, of course, is your highest court in the state of Iowa. It has a Chief Justice and 6 Associate Justices. So, 7-member Iowa Supreme Court. It is the court of last resort, meaning it's the highest one you can appeal to. All opinions it makes are binding on all other Iowa state courts. The Iowa Supreme Court has the sole power to admit persons to practice as attorneys in the courts of Iowa, to prescribe rules to supervise attorney conduct and to discipline attorneys. So you may pass school and everything, but the Supreme Court has to admit them to practice in the courts of Iowa. The Supreme Court is responsible for promulgating rules of procedure and practice used throughout the state courts, and has supervisory and administrative control over the judicial branch and all judicial officers and court employees. Justices are appointed by the governor from a list of nominees submitted by the State Judicial Nominating Commission. It's not the first time we've seen something similar to that, so yeah. Where a state has a commission that looks at what justices might be right to be appointed to the Supreme Court. Justice serves an initial term of office that is 1 year after appointment. The regular term of office of justices retained at election is 8 years. So an initial term of 1 year after appointment and until January 1st following the next judicial retention election. The justice must retire upon reaching the age of 72, so they do have an age limit for Supreme Court justices. The justices elect who will serve as Chief Justice. Your state courts inferior to the Supreme Court. You have Iowa District Courts. They are the state trial courts of general jurisdiction in the U.S. state of Iowa. They have the original jurisdiction. So usually this is where your cases are going to begin. With any amount in controversy monetarily, felony criminal cases, domestic relations issues, family law cases involving minors such as adoption, dependency, juvenile delinquency, and probate. District courts have the authority to hear any case within the district. So it's a bit different here because we've seen in other states, depending on what kind they are, certain misdemeanors and low amounts are only go to this courts, and then felonies and higher amounts to this court. But apparently, it don't matter the amount, felony, misdemeanor. No, it all begins in the district court. And many other matters come before these judges. The judges are appointed by the governor from a list of nominees from the state nominating commission. A term for a district judge is 6 years. Now, there are lower courts established as subsidiary to the district courts. We have the associate or state judges, not courts. We have the associate juvenile judges who only have jurisdiction over juvenile court matters. Associate probate judges who have limited jurisdiction to probate cases. There are official magistrates, or judicial magistrates, sorry, primarily serve their home county and have jurisdiction over simple misdemeanors, local infractions, and small claims. And direct or district associate judges who have the same jurisdiction as judicial magistrates with the additional authority to hear more serious misdemeanor civil suits up to 10,000 and certain juvenile cases. So it can be held down for lower judges, such as district associate judges, to hear cases like misdemeanors or low amounts. But even regular district courts can hear them. Your district court jurisdictions, there are 8 jurisdictions. Or judicial districts. But yeah, those are how the courts of Iowa apparently work. But there is a Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, District Juvenile Court, the Iowa Business Specialty Court. So yeah. There's the Supreme Court justices. Court of Appeals, their bench. 9 members, so they've got more than the Supreme Court as far as judges. We talked a bit about district court, the 8 districts. And then the juvenile court. And then business specialty court. Oh yeah, that's a look at the courts of Iowa. And altogether, that's been a look at the government and everything of Iowa. We'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.